All right, as we head into the weekend here on the John Riggins Show, we got the Commanders, the Washington franchise, big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up. We're going to have our pal Tom Loverro of the Washington Times join us on a variety of topics of issues involving the media and athletes behaving badly and reporters behaving badly. And what better guy than that is Tom Loverro and John Riggins.
Well, if we're going to talk about athletes behaving badly, I'm going to have to disqualify myself right now. I have to recuse myself from this show.
That was not planned, but boy, do we. So this is going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm just basking in the glory today. And I know everybody's going to think of because of the election. No, it has nothing to do with the election. You know me, Todd. I'm a do-it-yourselfer, right?
Yeah.
So I had this project out. We've had some work done on the back side of the house. We've got a walkway out there. It's about 6 feet wide. We got glass windows, and so we can see the river and all this stuff. And unfortunately, some of the metal started to rust. I had to pull some metal, or had to pull some of the, if you will, ceiling down from the one walkway on the first floor, so that they could get access to the metal so they could scrape it and paint it and all that. So there was about, I don't know what would it be. It's probably about a 10-foot strip. Well, it was more than that, but I already got that stuff back. But this one was tricked because actually what had happened is the board, which was 10 feet long and had to be cut in a couple of places, it had rotted out because of a weak spot in it from being there for so long. And so I realized, well, I could put it back together and just kind of butt these pieces together because like parts to a puzzle, right?
Right.
The wood goes back to where it was. And I thought, and I'm not above half-assing things. Don't get me wrong.
Is this you by yourself, by
But
the way?
as a rule, I'm not a half-asser, and I'll be there all day making it right. So, you get into that situation where you got to make all these decisions. And so I thought, no, I'm going to go ahead and replace it. Now, I get a piece of mahogany. It's a 1x6. And what do you think? And I ordered a 10-foot. They gave me a 12. You know how much I paid for that damn thing?
I'm afraid to ask with today's lumber prices.
$78. For a
you could have said
$780,
and I would have had the same reaction.
Yeah, I figured.
Whoa, 78.
Well, for me, it was an eye opener. I don't get out much anymore, obviously. So I get this piece of wood. Plus, I've also got another piece of wood there. It was pulled off the side, some siding that I had as mahogany, and it was long enough. And I started doing some stuff, and I was measuring. There's an old saying in carpentry, I believe, and it's measure twice, cut once.
Cut once, yes.
Yeah, you've heard it.
I am familiar with that.
Good.
I think.
Well, I measured probably 10 to 20 times, but I did only cut once. I mean, this is one of those projects, Todd. We're talking about putting a 10-foot strip of wood up, right? Well, first of all, I had to work off a ladder, and I'm 10 feet. It's 10 feet to where I am, so. Of course, my wife gets mad at me when I get the big ladder out, and go up on top of the roof because it's we got about 22, 20.
Right.
Well, I'm in between. The way our house is. There's no way the ladder's going this way, and it ain't coming back this way. It's only if I'm so stupid I can't climb the ladder, and then in that sense, I'm figuring I deserve to fall. But here I am sitting on a ladder now. Now it's a regular ladder, A-frame ladder, whatever. Right. I can't think of what they're called. Step ladder.
Yeah.
10 foot. It's an 8-foot step ladder. So I got to sit kind of on top of it. I'm going to tell you something. I think you can mess yourself up just as much falling off a 8-foot ladder as you can. You're like, well, maybe not 20 feet, but but still, you could kill yourself. You fall the wrong way, it's all over.
No question. Snap your neck, or you get paralyzed, or
so anyway, there's all kinds of degrees of difficulty. One is almost like the Great Walindus, where you got to keep your balance. You're working overhead, and let's start off by saying I'm not a professional. All right, I've always done things. I buy the tool. That's been my philosophy in life. Buy the tool and learn how to do it, and that way you'll have the tool, and the next time you can do it yourself again. And whatever you pay the guy, the repairman to come and do it. Now, there's obviously stuff I'm not going to mess with, like my ice machine's been acting up. That's out of my wheelhouse. Then you'd have to do some studying, and I don't want to go to refrigeration school. But then I'd be a professional. But anyway, I am an amateur, but at the same time, if nowadays too, you go online. There's so much information out there. But my theory was always, you buy the tool, you do it, and you come out ahead because you pay the same amount of money and you've got the tool at the end of the day. So to me, it's like, what not to like? So anyway, I had to make some decisions. One, instead of the one long piece, which was, like I said, 10 feet, working overhead off a ladder, not a scaffolding, even with a scaffolding for one guy, one person, I realized I can't do that. So I cut it down to a 6-foot piece and a 4-foot piece. I haven't done the 4-foot piece yet, but what we have there are some posts, metal, brace posts that are underneath there that are 4.5 inches in diameter. So what you have to do is, it's like basically you're cutting out a piece for a puzzle. You have to cut a circular. And let me tell you something. If you're off just a smidgen, it don't fit. That's why I measured 10 or 20 times. I was back and forth. But anyway, I'm basking in my glory, because by the time I got done there yesterday afternoon, I looked up and said, damn, you know what? If you didn't know better, it looks like a professional. Now, go figure, I've still got one piece to go. It's smaller. I'll screw that up. It's
so
like,
that's the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah, exactly. I got one more to do. I got one more semicircle to cut out of it and place it in and put it in place. But here's the good news: is it's only a 4-foot strip. I've got a 12-foot board. What's that tell you? It means I've got three chances to get it right. And I'll just eat that whole $78
damn,
bucks.
This one's too small. This one's too big. This one's just right.
Exactly. So I'm working with a net today when I go home and get ready to do that. So anyway, by the way, another thing occurred to me, and that was just the other night, because I went out to a birthday party. It was kind of a semi-birthday party. It was just getting together old friends, and it happened to be at Congressional Country Club, which country clubs and me, I break in hives when I go into a country club. Those aren't my folks, and I'm not saying anything bad about country club people. Just like, hey, I grew up in Centralia, Kansas.
We'll let this guy in.
There was a country club up in Seneca with sand greens, I might add. It was completely flat. I mean, yeah, quite a golf course up there.
Quite a big deal growing up in the 50s.
And there was no clubhouse. There was no clubhouse. You just showed up, you had a golf cart, you pulled it out, and you played golf. But anyway, so I'm over there at Congressional, and it's so, where did our customs come from? Like you see when people greet, the handshake, the hug,
the fist bump.
The fist pump. Now that's a new one. That's an evolution, and probably after COVID, that's become more popular. And then it was elbow pump. Remember the elbow? You don't see the elbow much anymore. It faded out.
Yeah, we needed that one to go by.
With COVID going away, it faded out. But I always wondered where. And then the other one is the tricky one. For people you don't know, there's that awkward moment, kind of, where you've just met people, and are you up against a hugger that somebody that is a hugger, or, particularly with women. And now this I'm pretty sure of. A man is not supposed to extend his hand to shake hands with a woman. Of course he can shake hands with the woman if she extends hers first. Have you ever heard that?
I did not know.
I think that's right, but I'm not Emily.
Been committing faux pas for quite some time now.
Well, you probably are. I do it, on a regular basis.
You better be careful about the hugging situation these days.
Well, see, that's where it got the other night, where I'm going. It was that. Okay, but
Did you know their
And then
names?
there are hugs, and there's hugs. There's the and then there's the, oh man, how you been?
Yeah.
I even did this with college friends a couple years ago. They landed at the airport, and one of my buddies I'd known for years, he went to hug me, and I was like, when did we start this stuff? It's like, I didn't know what was going on. So I find it odd how, and then there's, like, I believe in Italy, isn't it, where when they kiss both cheeks, right? And I'm sure there's other cultures that do the same. There's the kiss, the kiss on the cheek or wherever it is when you greet a woman. And then I was dreaming the other day, occasionally I do this because I watch so many movies over the years, the guy that kisses the back of the woman's hand. I will occasionally, after a couple of shooters, delighted and charmed, whatever. Yes. So, that's another one of those things that I had going on, was trying to figure out where does all this, and what do you do? I guess it's just like, I'm 75 years old. Do you think I'm going to get better? No, it's always going to be awkward. I just got to face
Stick
the music.
with what the big guy is feeling.
Well, I think really it is just to stay. You stay in your own little zone there, and if somebody extends, then I guess you're kind of forced to. You know what I'm saying? What about people you don't want to hug that want to hug you? I mean,
no question. How about
of
what I find now is how many times, and you're probably in that perfect situation where you see somebody going in for the hug or the big smile, and you're like going, I have no idea who this is. What's their name? How many times? And I'll sit there with my significant other and go, introduce yourself first. Introduce yourself first. I can't remember this person's name.
Well, that's the way it works for me. Well, basically, the best way to do is, and obviously, over the years ago, I'd be in a bar with her and meet people and all that stuff, and then, 15 years later, you run into them again, and
they expect you to remember that encounter.
Yeah. So what happens in those encounters is, I'm just warning you, folks, that I'll probably be blank because I drank a lot back then, and I shouldn't be expected to remember what was going on. And the other part of it is what I'll do is, you remember we were at Little Joe's, the saloon, we were standing at the bar, and I'm going, no, not really. Yeah. You was wearing a cowboy hat, and I had a red shirt, and I'm going, no, but... it's good to see you. And it says, no. And by that time, I realize I'm going to be there for the better part of the night until I remember. And so I do the old, oh, yeah.
I've seen you in action. You're very good.
I'm very convincing.
You're very convincing. These acting lessons with Bill Esper have paid off in spades.
Yeah, because it's all real in the beginning until I, come up with the, oh, yeah. I mean, I'm honestly saying I don't remember because I don't remember.
Well, you can't.
But then I realized.
You've had millions of encounters like that as a man of the people and the legend. And they're like, remember that time me and my dad and you were really nice? Yeah.
I'm thinking, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, all their supporters, they're going to say, oh, yeah, I took a picture with you.
Remember that time at that rally?
They're going to have to go, oh, of course, your name. Oh, yeah, sure, I remember you. Anyway, that was another thing. Now, here, let's get down to business, Todd. I'm getting to the point where I lose stuff constantly. But the good news is I know I haven't really lost it. I've really seriously misplaced it. Now, I have 4 things. I had a pair of sunglasses. I had a knife I've had for about 30-some years, a good knife. I've got replacements now that are better. And I kind of get to the point with possessions, where they talk about, downsizing and
take it with you.
Unloading crap that you have. Right, exactly. And I had a garden trowel, but I get very attached to my stuff, just like the refrigerator.
Garden trowel?
And, of course, and then I had this sharpening stone. Now, as things go, as you might know, all of a sudden, 3 days ago, I looked in the glove box of my car, and there they were, these sunglasses.
It's like Christmas.
Right. Basically, it is like Christmas. You go, right. I knew they'd show up.
Yeah.
I knew they'd show up. It's just a matter of, but I don't know how much time I spent looking for them. And then I kept going, no, dumbass, the old song, they'll come home wagging their tails behind them. Well, they did. They came home wagging it. And then the knife, 2 days ago, I'm downstairs and I'm rustling through my tool bag and sure enough, there's the knife. Now, the garden trowel, I figure, is out somewhere on the premises where I was out digging, planting something or whatever, and got up and didn't see it and left it, which tells me I've got to start spray painting everything blaze orange. That way, it's a lot easier to find once you leave it behind. But now this sharpening stone is truly eating at me.
It's bothering you.
It's it's like an 8,000 grit diamond stone, which doesn't mean anything to you, but it's very fine for putting on a real keen edge on a knife, right? And it's diamond, so unlike, what do you call them, soapstones, not soapstone, what the hell am I talking about? The stones, Boy, I'm confused here. Well, I'm not confused. I know what I'm talking about, but I just can't think of the word. But the knives
it's another
type of stone.
Right.
Exactly. A water stone. That's what I was trying to say. The Japanese use water stones to sharpen their knives. They've got a much harder steel than most of the steels that are out there. Their knives stay sharper longer. So, but you have to keep grinding the top of that off so that it's completely flat on a water stone. Mm-hmm. A diamond stone, I don't think you have to do that, because what's harder than a diamond? Nothing, right? Diamond is nothing but carbon under tremendous heat and pressure that becomes one of the hardest things there is on Earth.
Wow.
So I think that's right, but once again, never ever go to a bar and say, John, say, hey, diamonds are the hardest thing on earth. Oh yeah, I'll bet you $100, and they go, diamonds are the second hardest thing on earth. You lose. That's what you get.
Don't go to Wikipedia, go to Riggopedia.
That's what you get for listening to John Riggins. But anyway, but the stone, listen, I backtracked it in my mind. I'm downstairs in my shop. I thought, well, you know what? I should bring this stone upstairs in the kitchen, where it would be more useful, because I've got, I do have a couple of Japanese knives, which that's all I use anymore, because they are so sharp. And I thought, I can touch these things up, and I don't have to bring them all the way downstairs and all that. So that day, I remember taking it out of the drawer, and that's the last thing I remember but I had the notion of taking it upstairs. Now, my way of thinking, not unlike the glasses, the knife, that I've put it somewhere and laid it down, and somehow so I've turned almost everything upside down in the house. The only thing I haven't looked in is the water closet, but I'm thinking that, surely I wouldn't have
really are attached to
but
this.
But now my wife has what I call busy hands.
Put things away where they belong.
But
you don't know where they belong.
Or just, I don't like it sitting there, I'm taking it and putting it over here. So you end up going, well, whatever happened to that? But I don't think she would have done this. So to me, this is like one of those mysteries that finally, even though, I've already looked up, it cost a little bit over $100 to replace it, and I've considered it, but I'm going, as soon as I buy that replacement, know as well as I do, the next day, I'm going to pull a drawer.
Guaranteed.
Jesus.
You got your own little personal game of hide and seek. This is kind of fascinating.
But I don't even know I'm playing until I end up playing. But yeah, this stone has truly got me perplexed, because it's about, I don't know, probably 10 inches long. It's probably 3 inches wide and about, 3/8 of an inch.
So it stands out.
Yeah, exactly. It's silver. You can't miss it.
Want me to come over, put another set of eyes on it?
It's heavy.
You probably have passed it 10 times and don't even know it.
Oh, I'm sure I have, if it's still in the house, if busy hands didn't get a hold of it. The other possibility is somehow maybe it got bumped. I set it someplace, got bumped into the you got to start. It's almost like, at times like this, I think I wish I'd have been a detective, because it is like solving a murder, trying to find a missing body, whatever it is.
Or your own little game of Clue. Well, I tell
Pretty much, yeah.
I tell you who's got the clues is our guy, Tom Lavero.
But I wasn't done yet. I got more bullshit, Todd. I'm wound up today, as you can tell. And this will be brief, though. I'm going to get into this one real brief. There's a new, I don't know if it's new or not, but there's a series that we started last night. It's called Territory. And it sucked me in because it's the world's largest cattle ranch. That's part of the in Australia, in the outback.
Okay.
So the first we started watching the first episode, but it's like Yellowstone, Aussie style. That's basically what it is. I was just
getting ready to say, is it their version?
Same thing. But it's got as much bullshit as Yellowstone, which I refuse to watch after an episode where they're driving down the road. The sister, somebody points a gun at somebody, and then all of a sudden they shoot the gun, and they keep driving like nothing happened. Those people would be deaf. There's no reality there whatsoever. The gun goes off inside a cab, and these people, I shot a gun outside, and I'm still a little deaf in this ear. That's 6 years ago. So that was total bullshit, and I'm going, I can't watch bullshit. Although anything you watch,
so it'd been better if they were driving and you can see them driving down the road holding their ears.
They'd have pulled over. Their ears would have physically hurt. When I did it, it was like, God damn, what the hell is this? Oh, it was brutal. I'm telling you, it's never recovered from. But anyway, so I'm watching this last night, and so this guy, he's the head of the whole deal. Actually, they call him, he's the baron. He's the cattle baron, and he's going to take it over.
He's the Kevin Costner.
Yeah, exactly. But his dad is still alive, but he's obviously running the operation. So his horse throws him someplace, and he's laying there, and you see this gruesome break. It's a compound fracture of the femur, which is the thigh bone, and you got the bone poked out of it, and you got all this blood around it. And so all of a sudden, and he's there, and and he takes out his belt. Now he's not bleeding, it's just you see blood, but it's not like you see something spurting or there's a lot of blood coming out of it. But he ties his belt around his leg, and I'm going, yeah, well, I see, that's good. You're going to make a tourniquet, but then you got to have a stick to tighten the tourniquet. And he just ties.
We're a little tougher over here, mate.
He just ties it in a knot. It's no big deal. And after he gets done with that, what do you think happens? All of a sudden, a dingo shows up. And the dingo...
Dingo, eat your baby.
This is almost a scene everybody has to watch. I'm going to recommend you watch Territory for about 20 minutes. You'll get to this scene, and then you'll go, I've seen enough of Territory.
Don't spoil it with the dingo. I got to find out what the dingo did.
Well, I'm going to spoil it. Because I have to. That's the whole point. I can't leave people hanging. I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin it for you. But yeah. Well, listen, just seeing it after I describe it, you'll kind of go, wow, yeah, pretty impressive. So all of a sudden, this dingo shows up. And then it's like another dingo, but it ain't a dingo. It's like a dog that's bigger. So it's like wild dog. And next thing you know, there's another wild dog. Next thing you know, dog. And all of a sudden, and he's got, I forget what he's trying to beat him off with something. And all of a sudden, and there's two on him, and then there's three, and then it looks like, it looks like a scrum and rugby. There are probably 8 to 10 wild dogs ripping into this guy, right? And they are, what do you think they're going to do? I think that's dinner bell, right? I think that's what they thought.
It's on.
So then they go back to the ring, and everybody's looking for him, and so they're out there, and the guy goes, oh yeah, something. They're looking up because there's vultures circling. They go, something must have died. Of course, it's the guy's brother, and so he says, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of some of these varmints. He trains his gun down there, and all of a sudden, through the telescopic sighting, he sees, oh goddamn, there's a body down there, and they go down there, and it's the brother. Now listen to this. His body is still intact. He's got his shirt on. There's not one rip on his shirt. His arms are intact.
Crikey.
It would look like a mud hole when those dogs got done. But just a few bones would have been all you'd have seen. Todd.
It's
immediately
the outback,
I said,
mate.
Huh?
It's the outback, a little different. We roll a little harder.
So the wild dogs down there, when they eat you, they put on a napkin.
Bib.
They're much more refined than the wild dogs.
Yes, they know what they're
doing. And the coyotes around here. And then they take him to the hospital, or not to the morgue, and you see him, and they got him covered in a white sheet. And there's all this big spot of blood. Now, to me, I'm thinking, well, when he died, what happens is the blood, I think it's called lividity, just starts to settle in the body.
Yeah.
And so, but there's this big, huge pool, like patch of blood on the sheet, and I'm thinking, his heart ain't beating. It ain't been beating for probably an hour or so, but yet he's bleeding out on the morgue, what do you call him, the guy that does
the slab.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, Todd, it's like, it's stranger than truth. But I will say this, I'm one of those guys that once I see true, honest, I'll suspend my reality to a point, but when I see blatant bullshit, I gotta go.
I think like Taylor Sheridan, creator of a lot of different series, Yellowstone and Stallone's Tulsa King, and I think you need to be the on-set consultant. If it doesn't pass the Riggo sniff test, cut, Riggo, fix this.
There's a fly that would not be in this county in the background right there. This fly has never been discovered in this county.
He's indigenous.
You have to get rid of that fly, and we'll shoot it again. Yeah, it's something like that.
I love it.
Anyway, who we got? Tommy Bomb?
We got Tommy
boy.
Lavero coming up. All right, John, let's bring in our longtime friend of the show, Washington Times columnist. He also does a podcast with our buddy Kevin Sheehan. Tom Lavero. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to come on with you guys.
And we certainly appreciate having you on, Tom. Well, they're actually, what, are they past? They are past the halfway mark, 9
Yes,
games in.
they're 7-2. The Washington Commanders are 7-2. And Tom wrote an interesting column this week. And why I found it interesting is because for how many years now with all these different teams, for as bad as they've been, the direct that we've had to endure for many times, that you are the truth teller and you call them as you see them. You're fair in your analysis, and I got a chuckle out of it because what was this? Your third Jayden Daniels column so far this year, and the tone of it was, "Hey, it is what it is. Let's acknowledge and let's give some golf claps to what we are witnessing here because we're starting to get into some pretty rarefied air."
Look, there's a lot. I use this in the column. There's a lot of different components that are making this team successful, but they revolve around Jayden Daniels. He's the sun, okay? And all the others are planets that revolve around him. He's playing the position like we've never seen a rookie play the position before. So it's unprecedented. So you can't, like the point of the column was, you can't exaggerate what he's doing this year. People say, oh, it's too much, you're overblowing. You can't do it because we've never seen it before from a rookie at quarterback so far. So basically, yeah, I've written them 3 straight times, and I told people in a column, I say, hey, you get a great story, you keep pounding it until it's not there, and Jayden Daniels is the story.
I was going to say, there's no question about that. And I don't, because I didn't follow college football, but obviously, he was second in the Heisman Trophy, or he won his junior year?
Yeah, he won it one time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But clearly he's playing at that same level. You can't help but thinking, and I mean, it is a strange phenomenon, just what you said, to have a rookie play at that level, which I can't help but thinking, who did Cliff Kingsbury, he didn't have Mahomes, did he? Who was Mahomes?
Yeah, Texas Tech, right? Kingsbury?
Yeah, he had Mahomes in college. He had
Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Right. So my point
and he
is
was
that
Williams' advisor last year.
Right, at USC.
So my point is that Kingsbury
is the quarterback whisperer.
He's got to be. I mean, in other words, clearly Daniels got tremendous talent. But it's always what I say, you've got to be able to put the talent, through the transmission to the wheels. And he's doing that. And the transmission, I'm guessing, is Cliff Kingsbury. He knows how to coach a quarterback. He knows what plays to call. I mean, he's on top of the game. And I don't want to take anything away from Daniels, but there's like where he goes, the quarterbacks play well, you got to kind of start drawing a parallel there as well. I mean, the whole team across the board, you start at, stop at the top with Adam Peters, the roster that he has assembled, Dan Quinn, the people, the coaching and as the head coach, and then on offense, obviously you got Daniels and Kingsbury. It's real, and then you got to give the owners credit. They're the people that selected these guys. To see a turnaround this quick, and it's always like, for me anyway, it's always like getting let off of first base. How big a lead you gonna take, and all of a sudden you get picked off. All of a sudden they end up losing the next 5, and you go, damn it, I got sucked into this one. But I think what you say, I think they're onto something here. And even if they did, that you can see that this kid is for real, and he's in for the long haul, save for an injury.
I mean, you're right about Cliff Kingsbury. And you better catch his whispering while he's still here, because I would think he's going to be a hot head coaching candidate this offseason. That's the one drawback of hiring a defensive head coach. And look, Dan Quinn has built very quickly a very impressive culture here, and he seems like a great hire. But when you have a defensive head coach and then you hire, your offensive coordinator is probably going to be gone within a year or two if he's successful.
Yeah,
so that's one of the drawbacks of having a defense. So I don't think Kingsbury will be here long if this keeps up like this. But even with that, even if he puts Jayden Daniels in a position to succeed, the quarterback still has to deliver the plays. I mean, you never see, for a rookie and for veterans, you never see this kid with happy feet. In other words,
right.
like dancing around there in a state of confusion. He never seems to be confused about his situation. His composure, he just can't. I mean, for me, I've never seen anything like this from a kid before.
Yeah, he looks like a 5-6 year veteran that's gets it. And to what he only has 2-3 interceptions, and over I think 223, 266 passes or whatever. To your point, it's the confidence and the maturity that he is showing that is truly shocking.
And here's the other thing he said after the win with the Giants. This is a small thing, and like I said, I probably am exaggerating, but I don't think you can with this kid. In his post-game interview on the field, he said he was very pleased with the win because it's hard to win division games on the road. So I'm very proud of it. Now, we've all said that many times. We know that, okay? Most fans know that who follow the NFC East in particular. But this is a kid who's out of college, and for him to have the presence of mind to recognize that this win was different than beating maybe Arizona in Phoenix, I
Right.
thought was impressive. Again, composure and intelligence.
I don't want to ruin anybody's buzz, but I didn't know that. Playing the Giants, who cares? I'm playing the Cardinals, who cares? It's like, hey, it's a road game, big deal. Let's go get drunk the night before, and we'll show up and see what we got here, all right? Wear your black leather jacket and bring your blade with you.
See, Riggo rules versus
Yeah, seriously.
the mature
But I appreciate what you're
Jayden
saying. Yeah,
Daniels.
nobody told me. I mean, if you look up in the football encyclopedia, I'm sure there's an entry in there playing division games on the road. Much more difficult. Riggo did not see that. Of course, I was kind of a slacker when it came to the books anyway, but it's just the way life is, Tom.
Hey, Gibbs said we're going to have to fight our guts out against the worst team in the league. Riggo goes, yeah, I don't think so.
There you go.
So the other big news coming out as they head into the Steelers game here. Steelers, really good ball club. Russell Wilson back at the helm here. John, they picked up at the trade deadline Marshawn Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints, former All-Pro cornerback. Hasn't played a ton of games in the last couple of years, nagging injuries. And, every time you hear the hamstring injury and you got players and veterans who are on really shitty teams and, the old hamstring. What do you think about bringing in Lattimore here? Because obviously the defense is their biggest weakness. Not as bad as it used to be, but still they got holes in the secondary, probably being the biggest need.
Yeah, look, I don't think they started out the season thinking they'd be trading for Marshawn Lattimore at midseason, because I don't think they thought they'd be 7-2 and on top of the NFC East. So I give the general manager and the ownership credit for not sticking to some kind of strict rebuilding plan and instead recognizing that they're in a position to do something this year, something special. And those opportunities don't always come around. So if you're 7-2 midway through the season and you're leading your division, you have to go for it. And I think they did in some ways. And I think, they traded a couple of draft picks, a third rounder included in it. But, Adam Peters acquired a number of draft picks in this offseason. And draft picks aren't always for drafting players. Sometimes they're trade capital.
Right.
Baseball, prospects can be trade capital. You see it all the time. So, and the other thing about it, and John can maybe speak to this, I know in baseball in particular, if you're in a pennant race and it's the trade deadline and your team trades for a good player, it sends electricity through the locker room. Players get excited. Unless that guy is taking your job, of course, you're not so excited.
Well, you probably might have saw that coming, though. You're going, I've been off a little bit the last couple of weeks.
I think the players take it as a sign that, okay, they think we're for real. They believe in us. And I think that's what you saw in the Commanders' locker room this week when players were interviewed. I think they saw it as a sign from ownership that they believe that this team can do something special.
Tom, let me go back to the beginning of the season, and I don't recall, but what did you look for this team to do this year? Before the season ever started, did you come out with a prediction of how many games they'd win?
Well,
or even if you didn't, how did you think the season would go?
Well, they've
Certainly
already
not like
exceeded my win total.
Yeah.
From my prediction, I predicted 6 wins.
Listen,
And
Vegas had them at 6.5 was their win total. So,
Yeah.
Anybody being truthful here, and they were picked to be last in the NFC East by damn near every prognosticator worthy of note.
So now what would you pick them to? What do you think their final record will be? They're 7-2.
I think it's hard to find a lot of losses if you play that schedule game moving forward.
I told you.
I thought the same thing.
Losses. I mean, they'll be there. I mean, like Jayden Daniels said, division games are tough. They got to play the Eagles twice.
Right.
That's really going to be the measure. They got to play the Cowboys. Now I know the Cowboys are a train wreck, and that second game is the last game of the season. It may not mean nothing, but I think it's going to be hard for them not to get to 11 wins this year.
And impossible for them. Go ahead.
I think they'd have to self-destruct a little bit not to get to 11 wins.
Well, what I was going to add is it's like at this point in the season, they got to be a shoe-in for the playoffs. They'd almost have to just completely fall apart, which based on everything you've seen. And I think you brought up a great point a little bit ago, Tom. When it comes to the atmosphere, if you will, I don't know what else to call it, in a locker room and how players feel about the team, their contributions and all that. We talked about it a little bit a while back where all of a sudden I don't want to call it electricity, but there's something going on in the air that you just kind of expect to win. You just really can't fathom. When you're an also-ran, it's like, yeah, who knows, something. But you just kind of somehow, and that game 2 weeks ago against the Bears, that's the kind of thing that complete fluke, would never do it again, but it did happen, and it gives people. You start thinking in terms of we're the chosen ones, and that self-confidence inside of everybody and collectively within the team. I'm gonna tell you what, that's a pretty powerful ingredient from where I sit.
Yeah, I can see it, John. Let me ask you a question. I always say this because I've been told this, but sometimes, we're told the party line. We don't really know for sure. Players. What they really want from a coaching staff is to know that when they're out there on Sunday, they've been given a game plan that makes sense and that can help them win. And I know that sounds like simple, but a lot of times you'll see NFL games where a team clearly was not given a game plan to win. How important was that when you played? The sense of confidence in what you've been given to prepare to play.
I have to be honest with you, Tom. For me, and I was a running back, I was kind of a blank slate. You'd say, this is what we're going to do. In other words, these are my orders. This is what I'll do. I never really looked at, I'm not going to pretend I was the guy that was sitting up there studying game film and looking at, oh, yeah, we can exploit this and we can exploit this. As a running back, they give you the ball. You know what? You're on your own. You're supposed to have guys out there, what they draw up, Joe Bugle, say, okay, we're going to do this, what we do our run drills here, and we're going to work on this, and this is where, this is the blocking, and so this is where, and, I'm thinking, Joe, I love you, but it's going through one ear and out the other, because on Sunday, that defense, they got a plan too, and they're going to do something, and then I'm going to have to adjust regardless, so don't give me too much stuff. I don't need anything. I got to go in with a blank slate and make it happen in nanoseconds and make decisions. And I remember we were talking about this the other day, that, Bugle would be because I'd start sitting in with the offensive lineman, and he'd look back at me sometimes, go, Riggo, so you didn't quite see that, huh? But he was real nice to me. Of course, he'd yell at the offensive lineman. He was very polite to me. And I told him, I said, Joe, if we're gonna look at all the stuff I run by, we're gonna be here all day looking at film. So it's like, let's just go ahead and keep it moving. But no, for a running back, I think a quarterback because they watch the film and they look at the defense. They have to. I'm thinking the quarterbacks that get it and know. I mean, guys like Manning and Brady and guys that have been around for a long time. And Daniels is a preternaturally gifted guy in so many ways, and this very well may be another one. That he looks at what they're doing and he knows his own talents and what he can do, and all of a sudden he's feeling very good about what they do. You know, what they've got, what they've given to him. I don't know. Like I said, I can't really talk for the other guys, but to me, it was like, you know, what are you going to do? The only thing I need to watch film for, and then I didn't even have to do that because I was never part of the passing game, was blocking. If, you know, blitz pick up, that kind of stuff. If, you know, if you see a safety coming up, this team does a lot of safety blitzing, then you got to take him instead of the linebacker that may be coming from the outside, because if I do recall this from Football 101, MDM, most dangerous man. I could remember stuff like that.
Well, the other thing, John, you've always said what you did, it was improvisation.
Yeah, it's called.
And your eyes were your most important asset because, like you say, in split seconds, you got to make a decision. Hey, is the hole there? If it's not, where am I going? What am I doing?
Exactly. Of course, my nose told me a lot, too. When the guy, you stay away from the guys where you smell alcohol. That's like... Or you run to the alcohol because this guy had a late night last night.
He's angry.
Yeah. Well, no, he's either angry or he's hungover.
He's still buzzed.
Which could make him angry or it could make him docile. We never know how that'll go.
All right. Well, one guy that got angry over this past weekend, and it's blown up nationally as only today can, but I do want to get your guys' perspective on this because, John, you've been put in this position, I'm sure, a zillion times. And one, Mr. Jason Kelce, and he was at the Penn State-Ohio State matchup.
He just retired, right?
Yeah, and he's in the booth. You cannot escape Jason Kelce. It's impossible. Him and the Mannings, his commercials and endorsements and podcasts and broadcasts, you cannot escape the Kelces, I am convinced.
There's another guy that fought Mike Tyson. What's his name? He's out there too, right? Paul one of the...
Yeah, Logan. Well, yeah. Well, he's a YouTube... who is fighting Tyson. Yeah, he's a YouTube influencer, and because that fight's coming up.
I was trying to show off my social skills here. So I'm going to just shut up.
So
carry on, Todd.
But Kelce's shtick, right? He's a man of the people, right? And he's always chugging beer. I mean, there's a lot of Riggo here, a lot of Riggo. So we're going to take a look here at some clips here because he's got he and his brother, they got a beer brand as well, and he's going through the crowd and. Let's take a look here, and we'll go through this like the Zapruder film here, Tom. I've got multiple angles. We're going to see if there's a second yeller. So
we're going to do film breakdown?
Yeah, this is college kids, and let's see. Let's start off with
Kelce.
So that's Jason.
Kelce.
Hey, Kelce. How does it feel your brother's a faggot?
Kelce, can I get a fist bump? Kelce, can I get a fist bump?
Oh.
He spiked the phone?
He spikes the phone. Now he says, one of the kids says, hey, Kelce, your brother's a faggot for dating Taylor Swift, and goes on. And that's what you are hearing in the background here. And on the second clip, different angle.
Hey.
Oh.
Oh, then he threw it, I think.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting though? You could tell he knew by the taunting, But again, when you do what he does and you're out in front of people constantly, people all of a sudden your brand, they feel like they know.
There's always a wise guy, right?
So they start chipping away at it.
There's always a wise guy. So it goes viral, and so now we get the Kelce on Monday Night Football. He's part of that pregame show. And, Tom, did you see his apology?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
And basically, John, he is let's see if we got that here. And we don't right here. So he apologized in about 90 seconds and wished that he hadn't escalated to that, and the Penn State local police are talking about basic charges of destruction of personal property. But I got to imagine you've been putting this throughout your career because
Good point.
You go into, now this is just a college crowd, and this is just a kid that for whatever reason he's probably a drunk smart ass.
Right.
And I mean, this point of athletes, and you realize you get to a certain level of point, and that you're human beings here, and you mess around, you might find out.
Years ago, I had nothing like that, but I had an incident. I was downtown. I wasn't playing anymore, in fact. And I'd been into a bar, but I wasn't drinking. I went in there for a while. In fact, I hadn't had anything to drink. I was going through divorce, and I was quite sober. And two guys followed me out of there, and it was down in Georgetown. And they started heckling me, just would not let me go. I mean, constantly, like we were all three together for whatever reason. And I mean, it's funny because I knew we were going to talk about this, and I thought back about that, and I thought to myself, I said, I wonder if they were trying to draw a charging foul, get me to take a swipe at somebody.
Right, and then get a little payday.
And get a payday out of the deal. That's the only, but I did nothing. I just avoided them. But then you get into a situation where, what do you do in a situation like that? Because these people are obviously invading your privacy. Now that wasn't, but of course I'm out in public, but at the same time they're engaging you in a way that you don't want to be heckled or bothered by them. And I'm thinking, I guess you go to a policeman, then you feel like a little kid telling the teacher that that Bobby pushed me in the hall closet there. I mean, there's no good answer for the behavior. I don't think, in something like this. But at the same time, I think he probably like I said, if you're going to be a public figure, you just got to kind of put your earplugs in when you go out and walking through a place. He should have known from the very beginning that these people were not his friend. They were trying to induce him into doing something, and he played right into their hands, if you ask me.
What say ye, Tom Lavero?
Look, this guy is in the Taylor Swift stratosphere now.
Right.
His brother dates the most famous person in the world, and you can't afford those kind of missteps if you're traveling in that world. I think John is right that if you're going to build yourself up as a public figure, and one of the remarkable stories is this guy was a center. Oh, great! He was a very good center. But it's one of the most invisible positions on the field, and he's become a media icon. And he played center. I think of all the centers in the NFL, I don't know if anyone has ever risen to any kind of public level
Of celebrity.
You know what's interesting though? I've always felt like the center was the smartest guy in the huddle.
Right. Jeff Bostic would like you to repeat that.
Well, I mean, as far as the offensive line goes, and he was. I mean, he basically had to tell everybody, if somebody didn't know what they had to do, they'd ask Jeff. I remember asking him several times.
Jeff, could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. Jeff, talk real slow. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So I just think that, like John said, you got to take it. It comes with the territory. It shouldn't,
Correct. But people are going to behave badly.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't do that. And here was the other thing that was problematic that wasn't in that video was that Kelce's verbal response to the kid was to repeat the gay slur.
Yeah, who's the F now? And that's what he really was apologizing for on ESPN Monday Night Football. They gave him the first 2 minutes of the broadcast for his mea culpa. His mea culpa. Now this gets taken in, and that's why I really wanted to chat with you about this today, Tom, because again, celebrity out in public, he is the man of the people, and that's his shtick. He's the blue collar, he's the beer chugging, and everybody loves it, right? So first time that he's gotten a little oink on him. Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers, he of the 3-year, $193 million contract, I'm pretty sure, Josh Harris's franchise up in Philadelphia. And he got into a physical altercation with Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer, who is an overall columnist. Do you know Marcus, Tom?
I don't know Marcus. I've read him over the years, but I don't know him personally.
So to set the stage here, John, Embiid, going back to February of last year, didn't play. I mean, and it's Philly, right? Fans, and
Santa Claus.
the patience that they have shown over the years with the 76ers, and they, from the system to where they are today and to this and to that. And so there's a lot of drama up there in Philly around the 76ers to begin with. And Hayes isn't their beat reporter. He is a columnist that writes about a lot of different things. And so Joel Embiid had another arthroscopic procedure, played in the Olympics, but didn't participate in preseason and has not played in any games this year through, I believe, 6 games. I know it was through 5. So just a couple of days ago, he got into it with this columnist, and I'm going to put up to set the stage here. And this is from Marcus Hayes on Saturday that he put out in his column that Joel Embiid consistently points to the birth of his son Arthur as the major inflection point in his basketball career. He often says that he wants to be great to leave a legacy for the boy, and the boy is named after his little brother, who tragically died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a 76er. Well, in order to be great at your job, you first have to show up for work. Embiid has been great at just the opposite. Now in his 11th season, he consistently has been in poor condition. This poor conditioning apparently seems to have delayed his debut this season. Embiid won't play in Wednesday's opener or the next 2 games. So he has written a couple other snarky things along these lines about Embiid as a guy who is always hurt, got the big contract, and Embiid confronted him in the locker room. And he finally, after about 2 minutes of jawing at him, apparently hit him, didn't pushed him, shoved him in the neck, and there was a strike, and then people tried to get. But
Thought it was going to escalate.
Yeah, and Embiid said he will take all the shots from the media about his basketball shortcomings or his health, but nobody comes from my family. If you write about my family members again, you're going to see what I'm going to do to you. And I'm going to have to blankety blank live with the consequences. so
prison? We're talking prison?
So we got a manhood issue here. And Joel was just fined 3 games without pay at $1 million that is now going to the fund that goes to all of this. So he's been suspended. The Philadelphia Inquirer says they support their guy. And Tom Lavero, your reaction as a columnist who you've always been a fair shooter, but I know you have a lot of enemies because all the owners expect you to be the rah-rah cheerleaders and not the truth teller that we expect to hold people accountable.
Well, this is interesting because I always had in the back of my mind, I've always had a plan. This is probably so absurd for John to hear this. I've always had a plan in the back of my mind if a player attacked me. And my plan was, no matter how bad of a beating I took, I was going to break something, whether it was a thumb or a hand or an arm. On the way down, I was going to break something of his, And I've thought about this for years.
Oh, Tom, glad you wasn't in the locker room when I was. No, keep going.
Now, I would have taken a beating, but I was going to make them pay for it, even if it was a broken thumb. I was going to make them pay for it. The closest that happened to me was Robert Fick, who played for the Nationals when they first got here. Robert Fick never played a baseball game sober. Okay, he had a substance abuse issue when he played, and I had written a column in 2006 that really criticized the team for the way they were playing. I called them the Washington Misfits. Somebody posted it on the
words can hurt, Tom.
The locker room, and he wasn't too happy with it. So I heard about that, and so I walked up to his locker and I said, which is what I would do. I said, I understand you're not particularly happy. If you want to say something to me, I'll be glad to listen. And a couple of players dragged me away, say, stay away from him. You don't want to talk to him about this.
He's stoned.
I stayed away. So the next year at the Nationals banquet, their fundraising dinner, I'm at the dinner and I'm at the corner of a ballroom, kind of an empty ballroom, and Robert Fick is already drunk. and he walks out of the men's room, and he sees me, and he starts making a beeline running towards me, and he's going to hit me. He's coming for me to attack me. And Felipe Lopez, one of his teammates, has to tackle him, and some of his other teammates tackle him and bring him down. But if they didn't bring him down, he was coming to kick my ass.
And he was going to end up with a broken arm, a broken finger. You were getting a sandwich no matter what.
He already insulted him with his words, and now he's going to do some writer jiu-jitsu on him and get a little payday.
Yeah. So I think the columnist here, got a little bit too personal. As I understand it, he rewrote this version for later editions, and edited that, and may have edited it out. So I think there was consternation in the newsroom about it. But again, if you're the player, you can't put your hands. But I understand Joel Embiid's emotion. This is a very emotional thing. I'm always amazed at the stuff I write that people still talk to me sometimes. I'm still flabbergasted at it.
Right.
But I've never actually been Albert Bell threatened to put his foot up my ass one time. But
and Albert was good for it. Albert was good for it, too. When Albert, didn't he shoot at some Halloween trick-or-treaters or something?
Yes,
Albert's. Yeah. Albert was a bad man.
I was looking at that, and I'm thinking, I guess you can rewrite it or whatever. But to me, it all depends on how you encode this or decode whatever it is, because he's saying he wants to do all this stuff, but the guy's leave a legacy and and on behalf of his late brother that died. He said that's all truthful, and then he writes. But if you want to do that, you're playing in the Olympics. There's a little bit of responsibility on his side to, why are you getting so upset about this?
He misses a ton of games. He's notorious. He's notorious.
That's not, and if that's your idea of a legacy, I guess okay, And
a 3-year, $193 million contract, it's a complex issue. A lot of people are siding with Joel, but again, if you start putting your hands on people, then there are going to be consequences. We do live in a nation of laws. And,
I would have been beat up by every sports reporter here in this town my rookie year, or I would have beat them up because there was not a lot of good comments about John Riggins my first 2 years here. In fact, they were all bad. But you kind of, and it was I tell you, it was the worst period of my life, to be honest with you. But a lot of times it was kind of I learned more from that than I did from any success. And I realized just how little actually that the Washington Press knew back in those days, that they were not intelligent. They were great writers, but they didn't know what they were writing about.
Because George Allen had miscast you and really didn't give a damn about you and wanted you to be a blocking back.
I've always surmised that basically I was just part of the chum that they were getting to get at Allen. Allen was really who they were going for, but they cut me out of the herd only because he had signed me to this, what at the time was this huge contract, which really it wasn't if you know the details of it. And so in order to embarrass him, make him look bad, who's this clown you brought in from New York, Well, this is a great decision, George. So, it stings, there's no question about it. But at the same time, as I said, I learned a lot from it because I learned, this is what I didn't whine about it. I didn't, how many guys would, go to the newspaper and say, well, you know what, I come down here, I gained 1,000 yards last year, and now I'm a blocking back. Help me with this. Does this make any sense to you? Not to me, it doesn't. But what I did learn was I did what they asked me to do, even though I remember I started wearing a neck roll and black high tops. So I thought the only thing I couldn't do is change, get a number in the 50s or 60s so that I would look like a guard in the backfield, because that's what I was.
Hey, who's this palooka in the backfield?
Yeah, I'm going to go, well, if that's what you want me to be, I'm going to dress the part. So we all know, he's a blocking back now. Well, Tom, it's been so great having you on the show today. You've provided a lot of insight, not to mention a whole bunch of laughs, which is something I can appreciate. So on behalf of I think I did that last week, on behalf of Todd and Tom, they're very similar. You got to work with me, guys. And myself and Tom Lavero, this is El Riggo, and I am out.